future, Mr Chair.
Jonathan Young.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'm very pleased to stand and speak on the financial review of the Ministry of Economic Development, which actually is a ministry that's been folded in now to a new ministry called the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. The MB was established back in the 1st of July 2012 and brought together a number of the government's business-facing functions under one agency and aims to support New Zealand businesses to create a more prosperous economy. And isn't it great, Mr Chair, that Treasury forecasts in December showed a real GDP growth from 2.3% in 12-13 to around 3% in 13-14. So while all the prophets of doom on the other side, normally a happy member, well, what a depressing speech. Normally we are able to just very easily rebuff such depression that comes from the other side of the House, and we can see that New Zealand is forging ahead. We know, Mr Chair, that this country relies upon its export markets. We know that that is the real lifeblood of our economy. It's great to see that our Prime Minister has been very active in Latin America to 4 nations which are exceedingly big in their GDP, $4 trillion between them, Mexico, Colombia, Chile and Brazil, to build closer trading relationships with these nations that is going to enable New Zealanders to be able to export and earn more overseas exchange. New Zealand Trade and Enterprise reported to us that over the last financial year, New Zealand businesses' presence in Asia and Australia showed the biggest growth and grew substantially as well in South America. So the Prime Minister going there leading a trade delegation is very much part of the strategy that we are building in this nation to be global traders with our commodities. Latin America's middle class is growing rapidly and now represents 30% of the population. The World Bank tells us that. This group has more disposable income and is fueling demand for better infrastructure and an improved quality of life. That's where New Zealand can provide commodities to this market. New Zealand's exports to Latin America were worth $1.36 billion in 2011. We believe that we can substantially increase that. And what that means, Mr Chair, is jobs for New Zealanders, greater overseas exchange for this country that is going to lift the quality of life for New Zealanders here, but also is going to bring a quality of life for our trading partners. Dairy products are a significant export earner, and New Zealand has major investments in dairying and farm production in the region, particularly in Chile, Brazil and Colombia. So this is a good news story, Mr Chair. It's a good news story of what New Zealand is doing and continues to do, led by this national-led government, forging relationships with our overseas trading partners, all of which is building the strength that we have in the international marketplace. And, you know, around that area, Mr Chair, innovation is such an important area of economic development. If we're going to see a lift, innovation is one of those key areas where a lift can happen. Productivity lift happens not just because you're doing more of the same. A lot of the time it's doing something new and doing things better. And so, Mr Chair, what the government has done is established Callaghan Innovation, a new Crown entity charged with accelerating commercialisation of science-based innovation in New Zealand firms, particularly in the manufacturing and services sector, which includes food processing and beverages, by better connecting with scientific and technology and support through those sectors that they need to develop and commercialise their ideas. And it's great to see that that is happening increasingly so, that we are seeing real signs of growth. You know, there are signs that the pace of growth has picked up in recent months. For example, the volume of building work undertaken rose 1.8% in the December quarter, which was seasonally adjusted, after gaining 9.8% in the September quarter. We know that the construction sector can create tremendous uplift for the economy because there are so many different sectors and trades that are involved in this particular area. Manufacturing volumes rose 1.5% in the December quarter. Looking ahead, employment growth is expected to pick up due to the Canterbury rebuild and improving business confidence. You know, though we are sailing into headwinds still internationally, New Zealand's economy has become more resilient, more efficient and more productive. Thank you, Mr Chair.
Yeah, look, just before I call the next speaker, we're working under reasonably adverse conditions, and while some acceptance of interjections will be tolerated, I think if we get into the incessant thing, we're all in the same boat here. Let's have a little bit of recognition of the circumstances. Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Point of order, Mr Chair.
A point of order.
It appears that the microphone isn't working.